Hey everyone, and welcome to UK Media Warrior and the review for episode 2 of season 7 of Game of Thrones Stormborn. Now, this is the second episode in a row where the titles have been Targaryen related. Dragonstone last week, Stormborn is Daenerys' last name, Daenerys Stormborn, that's her name. So that's quite interesting. I wonder if the trend's going to continue as the season goes on. But anyway, this episode, okay, it was a step up from last week's. As my review for last week's, so I was very 50-50 on it. There was a lot of monologue. Everyone was pretty much still in the places they were at the end of season 6. There wasn't really any action much to speak of, other than at the very beginning with Arya taking care of the Freys. That was pretty much it. Now, this episode started off pretty much the same. It started off exactly where we left last week's episode, with Dany, Tyrion, and gang all in the map room at Dragonstone and chatting and talking. And most of this episode, other than obviously the end, which we'll get to later, was again talking, monologue, setting things up, letting people know, letting the audience know where people were, backstory on people, recent history in case they'd forgotten from last season. I mean, so we've got 7 episodes in this series. We're already 2 in, and they've spent the majority of the first 2 episodes basically just bringing everybody up to speed. That's a waste of time. That's a disappointment to me. They should be pushing this story forward, and it worries me to a degree. But let's get on. I'll try and handle all these points one by one. As I said, this episode was definitely a step up from last week, and we ended on a huge fight, which was fantastic. But let's take it scene by scene. So we start off at Dragonstone in the map room. The gang are chatting, and then all of a sudden, Dany is getting on Varys' case about his history, about how he served her father, how he served Robert, you know, the person who was in civil war against her father, who took the crown from her father. And all of a sudden, she's basically threatening him. Like, why should I keep you around? Why should I just not kill you? And yet, so far, Varys has done nothing while in her service to make her think that he would be disloyal. Plus the fact he has been in her service for a long time. And these points, these facts that she points out to him, she has known since he turned up. So if she had any doubts, why didn't she just kill him at the start? But okay, the argument could be put, well, she was using him for his talents, and now he's basically got her what she wanted. She's going to do away with him. But I don't necessarily buy that. I mean, if she's had these problems, obviously she was coming across quite strongly there about, you know, how can I trust you, sort of thing. You betrayed my father, you betrayed Robert. You know, why should I trust you? You're not going to betray me. If she any of these doubts, most other people would have kicked Varys to the curb and been done with it and found other ways to do what they needed to do. Now, I feel that Varys really only survived this scene because he basically answered all of her questions truthfully. You know, whether they might harm him or not, he didn't lie at all to her. And I think she saw that, and I think that was his saving grace. Now, that said, going forward, it's going to be interesting because Varys has now sworn his loyalty to her. She's told him that if he sees her becoming a tyrant, that he has to step up and tell her so. That's not something that Varys would normally do. Varys is normally in the background. You know, he's the guy in charge of the spy network. You know, he works behind the scenes. He doesn't normally get in your face about stuff, not as a rule. But I just found that scene a little bit not unnecessary, you know, particularly, but it just felt a little bit forced. And not to knock Emilia Clarke's acting, but I don't know how to. She didn't come across very colourfully. I don't know how to put it. I don't know how to describe it. She just came across as a blank wall. For all of her scenes in this episode, it was just basically the same tone of voice, the same expression, all the way through it. I mean, occasionally she cracked just a small smile when Tyrion might say something or something like that, but it didn't feel like she was actually smiling inside. It was like she was being sarcastic to a degree. So I don't like how the change, because I preferred Dany before when she was more human, when she would talk to people, when she would laugh, when she would cry, when she would show some emotion. But this Dany, I don't know whether it's because they're building her up to be this all-powerful monarch, so she's thought this is the way I need to portray that. Maybe, I don't know, or whether the showrunners are going to do some big twist and she's going to end up being a baddie, so they want to create a divide maybe between Dany the character and the audience, so people aren't, because people have been basically on her side pretty much from the first episode of the Game of Thrones series. So perhaps if they're trying to put her up as the new bad guy or something, perhaps they're trying to, just push a little bit away so the audience isn't connecting quite so much with her. Maybe, I'm guessing, but I don't like the way she's acting in this episode. It's very cold, very two-dimensional. There's just nothing there to grab on for the audience, the viewer. Back to that prophecy. Now, Melisandre turned up at Dragonstone for an audience with Dany, who seemed quite happy to take her on board, even though Varys was like, well, didn't you serve Stannis and look what happened to him? And Dany's like, well, we're lucky you turned up today because we're actually pardoning people for serving old kings, all the wrong kings. So there she is in the throne room at Dragonstone, and she's reciting the prophecy again, the same prophecy she's been trying to drill into Stannis before he died about. He was the prince that was foretold. He was the prophecy embodied. He was the one that the god R'hllor had brought to Earth, to Westeros, to defeat the dark enemy that's about to come. Obviously, it didn't work out for Stannis, and now she's saying the same words to Dany, and all of a sudden, Missandei is saying, well, no, actually, that now doesn't have, a male-female sort of tone to it. Really, it could be prince or princess. Where the hell did that come from? All the way through the series, everyone has been talking about the fact, who's going to be the prince that was foretold? Who's going to be the prince of prophecy? Who is it going to be? Is it going to be Jon? Is it going to be Tyrion maybe? Is it going to be Jaime? Who's it going to be? Now, all of a sudden, for some strange, inexplicable reason, they muddy the water by having Missandei pop up and say, well, no, actually, it could be a princess. It doesn't have to be a guy. It could be a girl. Why now? Why at this late date change the board, change the game rules? There was no need for that. I mean, this whole scene was basically in there just for that big bomb drop that no, the prophecy could be talking about a girl, not necessarily a guy. That was unnecessary. There didn't need to be that. That was, for the entire 6 seasons so far, everyone had been behind the fact it is a prince, it is a guy. The theories, everyone had been theorising about this, and now they change it when they've only got like 12 or 11 episodes left to go. No. They didn't need to do that. Okay, but then we head to King's Landing, and Cersei on her throne, the Iron Throne, talking to some of the Lords of the Reach, some of who are bannermen of House Tyrell, who, as Cersei says, are in open rebellion to the crown, and yet she's invited them to King's Landing. Now, first of all, they're very brave to turn up, considering what they knew she does to people who are, even marginally against her. She tends to take them out of the picture, but for them to actually turn up is quite brave. But it was a very good PR speech by Cersei, twisting the facts to fit what she wants them to believe. The fact that Dany is actually just as mad as the Mad King was. And she's a Targaryen, and Targaryens are crazy, and you can't trust them, and she's killed all these noblemen in Slaver's Bay and fed them to the dragons. And how now she's brought the Dothraki over here, these savages, and nobody's going to be safe, and she's going to destroy towns and cities and castles, and these lords have to side with Cersei to protect the realm. And it was a very good speech, and it was a very good twist. It was very, as I say, very good PR. But the problem is, really, these lords were probably up on current events. Okay, I mean, she's basically saying Dany crucified all the noblemen in Slaver's Bay. Yes, okay, she did. But it's a bit of a stretch to call them noblemen. They were slavers. They made their money selling slaves. And I think, I'm not 100%, but I know that Jorah Mormont was banished from Westeros by Ned Stark because he committed slavery. So if that's the case, slavery is outlawed in Westeros, and Dany killed a load of slavers. So why would these lords have a problem with that? And then Tarly and Jaime meet up for a little one-on-one afterwards, or Jaime chases Tarly down, tries to convince him to be loyal to Cersei. By saying, well, the Dothraki are going to come in here and they're going to destroy your villages and all that. And I'm wondering, well, let's take this from Tarly's point of view. Tarly has been loyal to Olenna, loyal to House Tarly, to House Tyrell all of his life. As he said, House Tarly is honourable. They don't backstab people. They don't cut people's throats at weddings. They don't set fire to people. They don't blow people up if they don't like them. They're honourable. So why would Tarly, a man who professes to be this honourable lord, want to get in bed with Cersei, who he knows has a very dark history? She's as bad as the Mad King. She blew the Sept of Baelor up with wildfire. That's what the Mad King wanted to do. She helped organise Tywin organised the Red Wedding, fair enough. But Cersei has been just as bloodthirsty as Tywin or the Mad King was. And Tarly knows this. Randall Tarly knows this. So Jaime coming up and saying, well, you got this. She's brought in the Dothraki out of no reason. Olenna's brought in the Dothraki only for no reason other than to get revenge. Well, that's a pretty good reason. Plus the fact if Tarly is allied with Olenna, then his grounds, his people, his castles, his villages are safe from the Dothraki. They're not going to get touched by the Dothraki because he's not an enemy of the Dothraki. He's actually an ally of the Dothraki. So he's got nothing to fear. So saying to him, you've got the Dothraki here, you've got the Unsullied coming in, they're going to take your castles, they're going to take your villages. No, because at the moment, all of these bannermen of House Tyrell are allied with House Tyrell, who are allied with the Dothraki and the Unsullied. So they're fine, they're absolutely fine. The only person in danger here is Cersei. Let's have a quick talk about Qyburn's catapult, or siege weapon, or dragon killer, or whatever you want to call it. Supposedly metal workers and whatever have been working on this for ages to create it. Well, okay, that's great. If they've been working on this one siege weapon for ages to kill this dragon, it's going to take more than one. And it didn't look very manoeuvrable. And if the dragon's flying around all over the place, which is what dragons tend to do, how are you going to move this huge, heavy chunk of metal around to actually fire it accurately? Unless the dragon is coming straight down the barrel of your siege weapon or hovering in front of you, the chances of you hitting one with this great big catapult are pretty slim. Plus the fact one ain't going to do it. So you need a dozen, more than a dozen. You probably need like 50 or so to cover all of King's Landing, because you don't know which direction the dragons are coming in. And if the dragons are coming straight down, because let's face it, they can fly, so they don't need to come over the walls. They can fly at high altitude and just dive bomb. So unless these catapults can face straight up and fire, then that's going to be a bit of a design flaw. Now, admittedly, Dany doesn't know these catapults exist, so her dragons don't know these catapults exist, so they might come over the walls and they might get a few of these things coming for them. But he needs more than one. He needs to have the walls lined with these things to stand any chance of taking down these dragons. He might get one out of luck. He might hit one dragon by luck. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a killing blow. These things don't look particularly accurate. So he's going to need to build a hell of a lot more. But then thinking about it, the time to build things in Game of Thrones doesn't seem to make any logical sense. Euron has built 1,000 ships in a couple of months with trees he doesn't have, nails he doesn't have the metal work, shipyards he doesn't have to build all these ships in such a quick time, not to mention crew them. So yeah, I mean, Euron's managed to do this, so Qyburn banging together a few catapults, that's probably nothing for Game of Thrones, hey, no worries at all, we'll line the entire walls of King's Landing with these things in a couple of weeks. No issue. Alright, Tyrion's plan of action, his military strategy, which he has obviously discussed with Varys and is discussed with Grey Worm and is discussed with Dany, until he introduces it to Ilaria, Elena, Yara and Theon. Now the plan is, from how he describes it, Yara and Theon are going to take the Sand Snakes back to Dawn, pick up their army, and then bring them to King's Landing. Okay? So this other fleet that are taking the Unsullied around the southern coast of Westeros to attack Casterly Rock. Okay, so that's the plan. There are a few problems. Now, admittedly, most people are going to be sitting there watching this and they probably aren't military tacticians, they're probably not strategists, they probably have no interest in military actions at all, they're probably just in it for the big fight scenes or whatever, and that's fine. You know, there's no problem with that. But for those who might think about it a little bit more closely, people who perhaps know a little bit about strategy, people who might think about it a little bit more logically, this plan doesn't really hold together. I mean, it starts off straight away with Yara and Ilaria and even Elena saying, just attack King's Landing. Just hit the capital, attack King's Landing, take out Cersei, take out most of the Lannisters, you win. Because then none of the other lords really like Cersei. You take out Cersei, you put yourself on the throne, you win the game, like Tyrion says. But instead, they're going for this long, convoluted strategy. Now, they have to, because otherwise Game of Thrones would be a lot shorter than it's going to be. But it is rather convoluted. And the reason I have a problem with this is, first of all, they know Euron is out there somewhere. They know he has a fleet of ships. Yara knows this, Theon knows this, they have told Dany this, they have told Tyrion this, they have told Varys this. Everyone knows that there is a fleet of enemy ships out there headed by Euron. Now they don't know, for some incredibly strange, inexplicable reason, Varys' spy network, or even if he doesn't have his complete spy work anymore, because Qyburn took over some of it, but he must still have informants in King's Landing, in Westeros. And nobody told Varys, nobody told Tyrion or Dany that there were these 1,000 ships in the Bay of King's Landing, and Euron had turned up to speak to Cersei. Nobody had noticed all these ships. Nobody had thought, well, that's important. I should probably tell Varys about that. No? Nobody? Yeah, and even if there weren't any spies, would Dany have been stupid enough, even with Tyrion and Varys and Grey Worm all there, Councillor, she wouldn't have sent a ship to have a look at King's Landing, Blackwater Bay, to see what's happening there maybe, question some merchantmen, speak to some fishermen, get the lay of the land. That's what most people tend to do when they're about to attack something. But anyway, okay, so they don't know anything. They don't know where Euron is. They don't know whether he's on the west coast. They don't know whether he's on the east coast. They don't know where he is. But they send these two fleets. Now, as I've said, King's Landing would have made the strategic, significant target. It's the capital of Westeros. Cersei is there. Jaime might be there. You'll take out all the bad guys, all your enemies pretty much in one hit. Tyrion saying we're going to sail the Unsullied around the tip of Westeros, bring them up the west coast, which puts them at risk of being hit by Euron's fleet because the Iron Islands are just north of them. So straight away you've put your fleet of ships here with your soldiers on board, and soldiers on ships, unless they're Marines, unless they're trained to fight at sea, that's risky. You've got this huge army which is a powerful force on land. Put them in sea, and all of a sudden they lose most of their power because they're not trained to fight at sea. But anyway, okay, so you're sailing around the sorry about this. You're sailing around the South Tip, you're sailing up the west coast to Casterly Rock. Okay, you take out Casterly Rock. What has that done for you? Casterly Rock has no strategic importance whatsoever. Okay, yes, it's the home of House Lannister. You really think Cersei's going to give a shit about that? She's the queen at the moment. She's sitting on the Iron Throne. She's got King's Landing. You know, why would she care if Castle Rock was taken out? It's like I say, strategically, it's of no real importance whatsoever because all of Dany's forces are over on the east coast. Dragonstone's over on the east coast. It makes no sense to take out Casterly Rock from a military point of view. It's miles away. You can't support it because you basically split your entire force. You've got some on the east coast, and then you've got this whole continent in the middle, and then you've got some on the west coast. You can't back each other up. You can't support each other. So that makes no... It's actually stupid. The more I think about it, the more stupid it seems. And nobody in Dany's council thought this was a bad idea. We should probably consolidate our forces, use our huge army that we've got, and just slowly work our way into Westeros. If we're not going to take out King's Landing, land on Westeros, start making allies, use the power we have, get to King's Landing by land, then take it out. If we're not going to take King's Landing straight away with the dragons, do it this way. It's safer, we've got the power, use our advantages. So, no, Tyrion's plan, honestly, it's absolute crap and it makes no sense whatsoever. I did like the scene with Grey Worm and Missandei. It's about time those two got together, so it was nice seeing that. My only slight niggle with it was, did we really need to see them naked? Did it really need to go on quite so long? I mean, Grey Worm gives that lovely speech about how she is now his weakness because he fears for her and for losing her. So once he'd given that, once she had accepted it, once their feelings had been declared for each other, just a closing of a door and then move on to the next scene would have been just as important. We knew what they were going to do in that room, so that would have done. We didn't really need to go to the full nakedness and laying on the bed and making out all that. It didn't sour the note or sour the scene, but it just felt a little bit unnecessary, really. But it was a lovely scene. I love those two finally getting together, so that's cool. I liked the reason for it, but it could have been done in a better way, I feel. Jorah, obviously we know he's at the Citadel. We saw that last episode, and him and Sam get together, and Sam has finally found a cure. Sam was doing well at the Citadel. He's found that mountain of dragon glass for Jon that he tells him about, and he's found a cure supposedly for Grayscale for Jorah. So that's 2-0 for Sam at the moment. He's doing really well. Now, whether that's going to backfire on him somewhere along the line, we'll just have to wait and see. And obviously, as the Archmeister said, there's no guarantee that this cure will work. But if he knew about it, because this is something that confused me a little bit, the Archmeister, I mean, when Sam said to the Archmeister, you know, when he was talking about Shireen and the cure that they used to help her, and the Archmeister was saying, well, you know, yeah, but he's a man, and this is totally different, it won't work on him. But he obviously still knew that there was a cure for a male, for an adult, because he says to Sam, he knew about it when they're in the library. So even if there was a chance that it could work, that it could save Jorah, why not offering it to him? Because when they're in the cell with Jorah, you know, the Archmeister's saying, you know, as you're an anointed knight, I'll give you one more day to make your decision, and then sort of like glances at Jorah's sword, and Jorah looks at it and nods, and they're both like silently agreeing, yeah, okay, I can take my own life rather than suffering what's going to come. So basically the Archmaester is saying to Jorah, you know, you're a knight, take your life, take the honourable way out. Why not offer him, if you're telling him kill yourself, why not offer him the chance? Even if it's 10% chance of success, it's better than nothing. You're definitely going to die if you fall on your own sword. So why not take the 10% chance of survival and getting the cure? So why the Archmeister didn't offer that is a little bit confusing to me. But thumbs up for Sam. He's doing brilliant work at the Citadel, even if that does mean clearing out chamber pots and serving up stew and all that crap. But hopefully he will win, because I like Jorah. I don't want him to die. He's one of the best characters in the series, so I'd love him to get cured and get back to Dany's side in time for some important battles or some important events to take place. Pot pie has got bigger. boy, has that boy put on weight. And I don't know whether it's the actors put on weight or if he was wearing a fat suit underneath all that. I don't know. But obviously the character has got a lot bigger. But it was good. It brought a smile to my face to see Aya and him back together again, because that was cool. That was a cool scene, and the way they were interacting, and how he was the one to tell her that Winterfell was now back in the hands of the Starks, how Jon had come down, killed the Boltons, and was now King of the North. Odd that nobody else had mentioned this, considering Arya's obviously been in Westeros for a while. She was there long enough to infiltrate the twins, kill off Walder Frey, kill off all of the other male Freys, make her way south to this inn, and yet all through all of that, nobody mentioned that Jon Snow is now King in the North. That's big news. It's only just happened. People must be talking about it. But she managed to avoid any mention of it, and only manages to get it from Potpie. But that's fine. I like the scene. I like the scene. It was cool. I loved him telling her and the way she reacted. And that was excellent. And then obviously we see her later on at a little campsite when Nymeria and her wolf pack turn up. Very cool scene. I was waiting for this to happen because obviously it had been advertised that Nymeria would be making a reappearance. There had been pictures of it advertised by the guys at HBO. So it was great to see them. But now the question remains, has Nymeria turned her back on Arya? I was trying to explain to my wife, because my wife was like, well, why wouldn't Nymeria go with her? You know, they've got such a deep bond. I went, yeah, but from a wolf's point of view, the last time these two were together, Arya threw a rock at her and told her to piss off. Now, it all comes down to how much the wolf understands, the dire wolf understands what Arya was saying to her. Did she understand? Did the wolf understand that Arya was trying to save her life back then? If she did, then she should be incredibly happy to meet up with Arya again, and why wouldn't she go with her? If she didn't, if she's just a basic animal inside, I mean, very loyal, like dogs are loyal, some dogs are loyal, but, you know, pets can be loyal to their owners. So if Nymeria was just loyal to Arya back then when she was a little girl because Arya brought her up and fed her and, you know, raised her, but she's still an animal inside, so being chased off, having rocks thrown at her, that might have changed. So perhaps although she's not in a position, Nymeria is not in a position where she wants to kill Arya, from an animal point of view, an animal perspective, perhaps she doesn't feel the loyalty to her anymore that she once did. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But the image of Arya turning up at Winterfell with a wolf pack behind her and that bloody great dire wolf next to her, what an image that would be. I mean, I'm thinking, if that happened, if that turned up, can you imagine if all the Lords of the North were at Winterfell? Sansa's now in charge. Jon's gone off to Dragonstone to talk to Dany. So Sansa's in charge. She's got a smile on her face. Great, she's in charge. She liked the fact that Jon left her in charge. That made her happy. Made Baelish happy as well, but we'll get to that in a minute. But can you imagine? She's happy. She's finally in charge. All the Lords of the North there. They're all listening to her. And suddenly Arya, another Stark who nobody knows is alive, suddenly rides up to Winterfell with her dire wolf, the symbol of the Starks, and a wolf pack. The impact that would have on the Lords of the North. Would they turn to Arya rather than Sansa? Would they look at Arya and think, here is a Stark, here is a real Stark. She's got a dire wolf, she's got a wolf pack, she can fight. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying it's a possibility, and Arya and Sansa were never on the best of terms. So how exactly would that meeting go down? Would Sansa be happy to see Arya? I mean, if she turns up without the wolves, then she probably would be happy to see her, because she would still feel secure in her power over the North. But if Arya turns up with a dire wolf and a wolf pack, and the Lords of the North start muttering about, well, you know, look at this is a Stark, look who's just turned up, wow, you know, then Sansa might start feeling a little bit, some of that jealousy that she had when she was a young girl might start coming back into it, and her and Arya's relationship might not be quite so smooth as her and Jon's reunion. But that said, Sansa hasn't been playing this smart. She said last episode she learned a lot from Cersei. One of the things she obviously didn't learn from Cersei is not to talk out of turn in a council where your king is making his wishes known. You don't cut the legs out from underneath the king when he's talking to his people, when he's talking to his council. Now, Cersei, although she never really agreed with much of what Joffrey did, if Joffrey was in public or in front of his court and he said something that she disagreed with, she never spoke out against him. And Sansa was in that court. She was watching Cersei and Joffrey interact with the court. She never picked up on this. She never picked up on the fact you don't go against the king in front of his people. You just don't do that. That's stupid. It sows seeds of doubt amongst the people about you and your family's loyalty to each other. And you don't want that when this is such a fresh kingship for Jon. He's just been forced into this. He's trying to get to terms with it. And he needs everyone to be on his side. And all Sansa's doing is constantly bickering with him in front of everyone, stabbing him in the back, undercutting, knocking his legs out, and questioning his almost every decision. And that is not a smart move. And honestly, I can't figure out why she's doing it. Unless she honestly just feels she should be the one in charge. He shouldn't be king. He's not a Stark, he's a bastard. So why did all these people not proclaim her Queen of the North? Why did they go to him and make him King of the North? Perhaps she still feels slighted by that, maybe? I don't know, but she's going about it by the wrong way. But Baelish loves it, because the fact that she is now in charge and Jon's gone off to Dragonstone leaves her just where Baelish wants her to be. So the question now becomes, does Sansa have Baelish right where she wants him? Has she figured him out? Does she know how to handle him? Is she not listening to his scheming anymore? If so, then we're fine, and she can handle Littlefinger. But he still has the Knights of the Vale, and they need the Knights of the Vale. So it's a very delicate situation. How far can Sansa go before she has to basically kick Baelish to the curb and be done with him, but might lose the Knights? You know, it's a very hard position for Sansa to be in. I hope she's going to come good. I hope she isn't the bitch that she was at the beginning. I hope she isn't backstabbing Jon. It's about time the Starks got some luck. Basically, their whole family's been decimated. Everything that's ever happened to them has been bad in this series. It's about time something good started to happen for them. So I'm hoping that Sansa will be loyal to Jon. I hope Baelish gets what he's got coming to him. But we'll have to wait and see on that. But she really, really has to stop questioning Jon in front of everyone. But talking of Littlefinger and Baelish, why did he go down into the crypts to talk to Jon? To my mind, from what we've seen, his idea is that he is going to basically try and undermine Jon, take control of Winterfell, and that will be his path to power. Now, if that's the case, why would he put himself even more on Jon's radar by pissing Jon off by saying that he's in love with Sansa? Why would he do that? What did it benefit him at all? I mean, it basically pissed him off when Jon thrust him against the wall and said, "You lay a hand on my sister and I'm going to kill you." But what else did he expect Jon to do? I mean, did he think Jon was going to turn around and go, "Oh, well, that's great, fantastic. I finally found a man for Sansa. Yeah, nice one, mate. Good luck on that." No, like that's ever going to happen. So he knew saying that was going to really piss Jon off, which makes Jon trust him even less. And the reaction of him walking out of those crypts and looking pissed off, it didn't make any sense, because he's a smart guy. He knew that was going to happen. So why would he be pissed off when he got the reaction he must have known was going to happen? And then we come to the final scene, the epic naval battle. Only it wasn't really an epic naval battle. It was a fun scene. It was very exciting, great fight scene, great choreography. And it was very, very cleverly filmed. Lots of green screen, which is fine. But basically, it wasn't a naval combat. Basically, they had one ship and possibly the front end of another ship, the front end of Euron's ship that had hit and you know, struck a hole in Yara's ship. That was pretty much all that was going to be on set. But this leads to some issues. Yara had a big fleet, big enough to take the whole Dornish army from Dorne to King's Landing anyway. Pretty big. Okay, but the first she knows there's any problems, the first her and Theon know there are any problems, is when their ship lurches and they run up on deck. And the first thing Yara sees all around the horizon are burning ships. Her ships on fire. No one thought to go and tell Yara, oh, we've spotted this enemy fleet incoming, Admiral, what do you want us to do about it? Nobody thought to go to Yara and say, our ships are being taken out, our ships are on fire, what do you want us to do? No one? They just left her in her cabin? Was there like a really, really strict looking do not disturb sign on the door? Again, logic goes flying out the window because for story purposes, they couldn't afford to do a big naval battle because they probably would need the money later on down the line. Fair enough. But it doesn't make any sense that Yara would come up on deck, look around and see all of her ships on fire and nobody had gone down and told her this was going on. That's just stupid. Stupid story writing, weak plotting, and it just makes them look thick. It really does. So, although I enjoyed the end sequence, from just sitting back and watching the fight scene going on and all that, that was cool. Euron really is the rock star of Westeros right now. He just like saunters onto your deck, ha ha, and just starts swinging, and it's like, pfft. The Sand Snakes, God, did they get a shit deal. I mean, everyone was complaining, you know, nothing ever happens in Dorne. Dorne's boring. Why are they bothering with Dorne? I don't want to see any more Dorne. In the books, Dorne is one of the most important places there is, and a lot happens there, and it's pretty good stuff. But the showrunners have really just kicked the crap out of the Dorne storyline, and I honestly don't know why. But the Sand Snakes Euron takes out 2 of the 3 Sand Snakes here in pretty much no time at all. So it makes them look really weak all of a sudden, when before they've been built up to be these really good fighters who could, you know, pretty much take down any guy. Although, that being said, they were having trouble handling Bronn and a left-handed Jaime back in Dorne last season, so maybe they're not quite as good as they were trying to make them look. I don't know. But in this, obviously in this fight, Euron manages to take out 2 of them in pretty swift order and captures Ellaria and her daughter. Now, this is obviously the gift that he promised Cersei. He's now got Ellaria, the woman who's responsible for Myrcella, Cersei's daughter's death, and he's going to present her to Cersei as the gift. And I'm sure Cersei can come up with a very torturous and drawn-out way of killing Ellaria for killing her daughter. But again, we're brought back to the issue I brought up a while back. How did Euron know that the fleet was sailing south from Dragonstone? And even if he did know there was a fleet sailing south, how did he know Ellaria and the Sand Snakes were on board? What's he got, a crystal ball or something? I mean, his spy network, his intelligence network is better than Varys and Tyrion's at this point? I very much doubt it somehow. So how the hell did he know this? So unless they're going to introduce a traitor somewhere along the line in Dany's camp who's feeding all this information to Euron or to Cersei or to whoever, then it makes no sense that he would just be hanging around in the narrow sea in case somebody happens to sail by. I mean, he's got better things to be doing. But he says to Cersei in the last episode, he said, I'm going to go and get you a gift. So he must have already known what that gift was going to be. He went out with purpose. He's like, I'm going to go get you a gift that you deserve. So in his head, he must have thought, I know, I'm going to go and get Ellaria. She killed Cersei's daughter. Cersei's going to love me if I get that girl. But that was a while back. So how did he... I mean, the time, again, it's... As Doctor Who says, it's very timey-wimey. It doesn't... Their plots and timelines just do not sync up at all. Euron wouldn't know that Ilaria were on those boats, was on that boat. He just wouldn't know. And how would he know which boat she was on? They all look pretty much the damn same, so how would he know which one was on? I mean, I suppose it's possible Yara was the admiral of the fleet. She might be flying her flag, as admirals tend to do on ships when they're on board. So I'll forgive him for that one. But the fact that he shouldn't know that Ilaria was on these ships at all is something that I can't forgive, unless they can explain it somewhere down the line, but I don't think they can. So there we go. So this episode, last episode, I gave it a 5.5 out of 10. This was a better episode. They definitely upped their game, and I'm hoping after this nice way of ending this episode, they're going to start speeding things up, giving us the more action that they promised us, and basically doing better with the smaller season that they've got here. So with all that said, this one's going to get a 7.5 dragons out of 10. So there you go. There's my rating for this one. 7.5 dragons out of 10. It's definitely a step up from the last episode. I'm looking forward to what's going on, coming on down the pike. I am concerned about the writing. And here's my thoughts on this. Here's my theory. Ever since they've left the books behind, the writing seems to have become a little weaker, a little bit shakier. When Game of Thrones first started, the first 5.5 seasons, the writers were adapting what George R. R. Martin had already written in the books. Obviously, authors have a lot more time to concentrate on plot, on story, on background, on characters. That being the case, it's a lot easier for writers to adapt all of this juicy, creative, colourful writing into solid on-screen stories. And that's what they did, and that's why Game of Thrones was such an incredible hit for the first 5.5 seasons. Now they've left all that behind. Now they're sailing into uncharted waters, and the writers are just making it up as they go along. This is what writers do on other shows now. They don't have the support network of George R. R. Martin's already written books. They don't have that. There's no safety net. They're just out there trying to put the plot together on their own. And this is why I'm starting to have problems with it. This is why the plot holes are starting to appear. First 5.5 seasons, nobody was talking about plot holes. Nobody was really talking that much about how the times doesn't really make sense. All anyone was talking about was how incredible the stories were, how incredible the characters were, theorising what's going to happen down the line, and everyone loved it. Nobody had problems with it. I didn't have problems with it. The first 5.5 seasons were fantastic, solid, excellent story writing and on-screen TV. It deserved all of the praise it was getting. But last season, the holes started to appear. And the first 2 episodes of this season, the holes are still there, and in some cases they're getting bigger. And this worries me. What I don't want is for the HBO showrunners to think all we have to do is put big colourful battles on the screen. That will blind everyone to the fact that that plot doesn't really make much sense, and that timeline makes no sense at all, and these characters really aren't in the right places anymore. We'll just put big colourful battles on there. That's what people want. That's what they've been asking for. Expensive battles like the Battle of the Bastards. Give them that, and people will keep watching, and we'll go out on a high. No. For a little bit that's true. People do want to see the big battles, but people loved Game of Thrones for the characters, for the writing, for the story. And that started to fall apart, and it worries me. It really does. But it's my concern. We'll see how it turns out down the line. I'm hoping, to God, I'm hoping I'm wrong. But we'll wait and see. But anyway, thank you for staying with me. I know this is a slightly longer review than probably you were used to. If you're still with me, thank you so much. I'll be back next week for another review. If you want to, please subscribe to my YouTube channel or share this on your Facebook maybe. But until next week, you guys take care. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.